My husband, Larry, will inherit the house, the $5 million, and the director position. When Julie heard a lawyer was there for Kyle's inheritance proceedings, she couldn't hide her joy. She walked into the living room like she owned the place. Julie, who always asked about the inheritance, and if it was done yet, must have been eagerly waiting for this day. Ignoring me, she went straight to the lawyer. The old me would have told her off, but as Julie turned her back to me, I couldn't wait to hear what she'd say next. Her greedy comments were even worse than I expected, and I laughed out loud, holding my stomach. The lawyer looked stunned, and I kept laughing at Julie's boldness. Julie didn't think it was funny and gave me a cold look. "Do you really think you'll get your father-in-law's inheritance?" I laughed at her obsession with money and her dramatic attitude, pointing to the late-arriving Larry. She raised her voice. "The right to inherit belongs to my husband, Larry." I took a deep breath, ready to tell her the truth. "My name is Lauren, and I am 62 years old. I have been a full-time housewife, supporting my doctor husband, Kyle, for a long time. Even after becoming a director, he always kept working, never tired. Larry grew up watching his father and decided to follow the same path. I believe my husband had a happy and fulfilling life. However, my husband passed away at the age of 65. He was passionate about his work and believed being a doctor was his calling. Maybe his sudden death was due to overworking, but at his funeral, I felt he had no regrets. Not just his superiors and colleagues, but also subordinates and others came to the funeral. The venue was packed with people mourning him. It wasn't just medical professionals who attended. Many patients he had treated in the past came to pay their respects. I didn't know exactly how he worked since I only saw Kyle going to and from his job every day. But seeing how much he was loved reassured me that he had done the right things in his life. At the summer funeral, Julie, the eldest son's wife, seemed restless and out of place. Her face relaxed almost as if she was happy about her father-in-law's death. My suspicions were confirmed when I overheard her talking with relatives. My father-in-law was always working. I think he might have saved quite a lot since he probably didn't have much time to spend money, she said. Hearing such a statement right behind me, I couldn't believe my ears. Despite being in the middle of a funeral, Julie seemed more concerned about how her father-in-law's inheritance would be divided. Perhaps she didn't know that a daughter-in-law might not have any inheritance rights. Even so, her behavior wasn't appropriate for the funeral. Seeing her actions, Larry, the eldest son, apologized to me with a guilty look. "Mom, I'm truly sorry." No matter how many times I tell her, Julie doesn't listen. "It's not your fault, Larry. But if you feel that way, can you please firmly warn her? Many people are attending this event." I knew about Julie's behavior even before Larry mentioned it. Remembering her inexcusable attitude, I recalled how she didn't help at all while I was busy with my husband's funeral preparations. She didn't offer me any words of comfort or sympathy. To make matters worse, she was always talking about the money, asking things like, "Your husband had quite an inheritance, right? How much was it? Even if you're his wife, it's his inheritance, so don't waste it. Okay. Did you come here just to say that? Is that all you have to say? Well, yeah. If you squander it just because you don't have long to live, I'll be in trouble." Anger and disbelief flooded over me as Julie spoke, as if my late husband's assets belonged to her. Moreover, she always looked down on me and was sarcastic. I don't know why she dislikes me so much, but her comments about other people's assets have often left me disheartened. My son Larry was inspired by his father and became a doctor. Larry's earnings are not bad, but Julie has always been overly obsessed with money. She'd often call me saying things like, "I'm worried about our future with Larry's low income," or we're short on money, hinting that she wanted financial help. Because of this, getting along with her was very challenging. I used to let things slide, but now she's targeting my husband's inheritance, and I've reached my limit. Larry's income is really unstable, so we don't have much money to spend freely. Oh, really? Why don't you work then? That would help with the household expenses, and you could afford some luxuries. What? It's ridiculous for a doctor's wife to work. You're lucky since your husband earned well, and you could live comfortably. No matter how many times I tried to advise her, her attitude only worsened, and our arguments became more heated. She wouldn't even hesitate to belittle her own husband, Larry, just to look down on me. From her perspective, I'm her mother-in-law, but once married, we're family. I couldn't stand the way she treated family members with such disrespect. Thanks to my husband, I've been able to live comfortably. If she wanted the same, maybe she should respect and support her husband a bit more. If there was something about Larry to respect, then maybe. Anyway, I'm off to get my nails done and have a spa day. Don't forget about the inheritance, okay? By now, she just blurted out whatever she wanted and promptly left the house. Given her stormy behavior, I began to wonder how Larry was treated at home. But her self-centered actions didn't end there. During the inheritance proceedings, she continued her bad behavior, which became increasingly intolerable. Even after the funeral was over, every time she visited, she'd greet me with, "How's the inheritance coming along?" It felt like a standard greeting. Despite explaining several times that the process takes time, she either forgets or doesn't understand, and constantly pressures me whenever she sees me. I've told her multiple times that she has no rights to the inheritance, but she just doesn't seem to get it. Whether she believes Larry's money is hers or has some other scheme in mind, she seems convinced she'll inherit a fortune. After discussing with Larry, or rather manipulating the conversation to her advantage, she probably intends to get a share of the inheritance. If that was all, it would be a family matter for Larry to handle, but her actions affect everyone involved, making the situation much more complicated and stressful. I shouldn't interfere, but Julie tried to steal valuable things from our house. "Julie, what are you doing?" "That's my necklace." "Oh, come on, don't be so stingy. We're family, so it's okay, right?" "I can't be friends with someone who would steal from me." "Fine, then I'll take it as an advance on the inheritance." "That's okay, right? I am being patient here." No matter how many times. I told her not to act like that, but she wouldn't listen to me. From the moment she took my cherished necklace, a gift from my husband, I couldn't stand it. After that, I never opened the door for her again, even though Larry frequently messaged, saying, "Mom, I'm truly sorry for Julie." I couldn't stop her. I gave up expecting anything from Larry or Julie. I didn't even have time to grieve the loss of the necklace, as her harassment continued. She badmouthed me to her friends and others, calling me the worst mother-in-law who won't even let her in the house. The neighbors would say, "It looks tough," with a smile, but they showed concern. I don't understand why she hates me so much. It gives me a headache. What hurt the most was a letter I found in our mailbox. I felt disgusted just by seeing the already opened envelope. When I checked its contents, it was addressed to Larry and his wife. Whether it's Julie's idea of harassment, because I won't let her in, her credit card bill was in our mailbox. Seeing the statement filled with extravagant expenses from luxury restaurants and online shopping made my blood run cold. "Larry, there's a credit card bill for Julie in our mailbox." It was already opened and checked. What's the meaning of this? I have no idea. It seems like she is spending a lot. She always talks about her income to me. Is everything okay? Well, it's actually tough, Mom. I'm sorry to ask, but could you pay for it? Wanting to complain, I contacted Larry. However, whether under Julie's influence or due to the power dynamics in his household, he said something unbelievable, leaving me speechless. I wondered why I needed to help them. Why would he even think I'd assist them? He can even retrieve the cherished necklace from his wife. What is he even saying? I also harshly criticized his behavior, which seemed to only remember things convenient for him. I've already done my part in supporting you as a parent. Why would an adult like you burden their parents and ask for help? Well, we have Dad's inheritance, right? You won't be able to use it all by yourself. Please, I thought you'd help. There's a saying about a thief acting brazenly after committing theft, and now I get it. Larry, you and Julie are really a match made in heaven. I'm cutting ties. Stay away from me. I could tell from the other end of the phone that he wasn't taking what I was saying seriously. I was so furious with his attitude. After hanging up, I immediately threw the bill into the trash. The idea that Julie might have deliberately put it in our mailbox, assuming I'd pay, was unbelievable. Most of all, it was an inconceivable act and made me question her as a person. Do you think I haven't thought about it? Is there really a way to get the inheritance, Kyle? What should I do? I asked for my husband's photo, picking it up unconsciously from my anger and disappointment towards Larry and Julie. I've lost understanding of how to handle my emotions. Is it really okay to proceed with the inheritance as it is amidst my insecurities? I somehow gathered courage. I hope someday they get what they deserve. Frustrated by their appalling behavior, I dealt with the inheritance proceedings alone. Perhaps my feelings got through, as I found out my husband had left a will, and in it, something was written. After reading the will my husband left behind, I resolved to protect myself and get back at them. I'm glad it seems Kyle was on my side after all. Thank you, I whispered, holding back tears and pressing the will to my chest. I regained my composure. I clenched my fist, deciding I wouldn't just do nothing and let those two dictate things. I decided to wait for the right moment to make a big move against them. Maybe because I felt relieved at the thought of being able to retaliate for all the suffering, I completely forgot about Julie's bill. I would have thrown it away from the start, not intending to pay, but she must have received a reminder this time. I received a message from her, even though I had told her the inheritance proceedings were not yet completed. There were false accusations that I wanted to control everything. Her words seemed to attack me. It's because you haven't settled the inheritance yet. I'll wait a little longer, but please do it as soon as possible. Oh, by the way, you saw the bill I left in the mailbox, right? Please make that payment. What are you talking about? Stop joking. Why do you think you're entitled to the inheritance? Oh, come on, Larry is the eldest son, right? It's only natural for him to get an inheritance, isn't it? Do they think I know nothing? Larry has a right to inherit because he's the eldest son. In general, this is not incorrect. Even after Julie said all this, I still haven't told them the important thing. Even if I don't tell them, it's their own problem, and they should naturally know about it. But for them, who only think conveniently, it might be hard to realize. I'm waiting for the perfect moment when they fall apart. Watching for the right timing, and finally that time came. It was when I had explained the situation to the lawyer, and after the proceedings were finished with his cooperation, I finalized the plan. I will contact Larry when the procedure is complete. After discussing with the lawyer, to me, it's just a routine communication. But as expected, Julie came to my house with a face filled with joy. I deliberately left the front door unlocked, without any suspicion. She opened the door and stomped in. Seeing her, I could hardly hold back my laughter. I've been waiting for so long. Isn't it terrible? You've been reluctant to complete the procedure and won't give up the inheritance. Julie, what brings you here? Is this gentleman the lawyer? I am Julie. Larry's wife, ignoring me completely, headed straight to the lawyer sitting in front of me. Normally, I would reprimand her for such rude behavior, but this time I held back and waited. She turned her back on me, ignoring me, and approached the lawyer. I was excited to hear what she would say next. Finally, we will inherit this house, $5 million, and the director's position because Larry is the eldest son, she said. Her greedy remark was more than I expected, and I laughed out loud, holding my stomach. The audacity of her and the lawyer's stunned face made it even funnier, and I kept laughing. Of course, Julie didn't find the situation amusing and glared at me coldly. Hey, what's so funny? Are you upset that we are taking the inheritance? No, why $5 million? How did you come up with that amount? Come on, your husband worked as a doctor for a long time, right? He probably didn't have time to spend money. It's obvious that there's that much money, unless you have already used it. I genuinely laughed at her obsession with money. Whatever I choose to do with my inheritance is my business, and you have no right to complain. However, it seems she doesn't like the idea of me inheriting. How many times have I told you, since you don't have much longer to live, don't do anything reckless? Even if you're related by marriage, it's quite something to say that to me, your elder. Didn't I tell you that you have no right to inherit? Julie, wearing the necklace she stole from me, glared at me sharply. I have no intention of letting her take anything more precious from me. I made up my mind not to lose to her, who is self-centered, greedy, and obsessed with money. I clenched my fist, pointing to the late-arriving Larry. Julie exclaimed loudly, "The right to inherit belongs to my husband." Larry, taking a deep breath, I decided to tell them the truth. You see, there shouldn't be any inheritance for you two to claim, Larry. Isn't that right? Huh? Why, Mom? What do you mean? Oh, don't you have any idea? Aren't you forgetting something? Wait, are you talking about that issue? It was resolved a long time ago, wasn't it? Duh, what are you even talking about? Truly disappointing. What have you made amends for? What's resolved? Don't talk nonsense. Wait a minute, what are you talking about? I was taken aback by her demeanor, as if she had completely forgotten or knew nothing about the issue, even though it was a situation she caused. It seemed she couldn't remember it. I decided to explain the situation in detail for them to understand. Larry had married Julie a few years back. However, before that, he was already married to another woman and had a child with her. Despite having a family, he neglected them to have an affair with Julie. After their affair, Larry and Julie got married. The truth came out when Larry came begging Kyle, unable to pay alimony and child support on his own. Larry, what were you thinking? I never thought you would stoop this low. I had no other choice if I wanted to marry Julie. What are you saying? You're the one who committed the wrongdoing. Even if you are my son, don't expect me to pay for your mistakes. Larry, take responsibility and sort it out. Why, you can help me a bit as a doctor. You are constantly working and don't have time to spend money, so you must have some to spare, right? Larry's audacious remark pushed my husband's anger to its peak. When Larry started making excuses about being overwhelmed with new life and needing money for their wedding, my husband decided to cast aside his feelings as a parent and choose his grandchild instead. Fine, I'll pay on your behalf. There's no need for my grandchild to suffer because of a terrible father like you. Dad, don't say it in such a sarcastic way. I'm your son, you know. Exactly, that's the point. And in exchange, I won't support you in any way from now on. And of course, don't expect to inherit a single thing from me. Larry probably thought that my husband's words were just declarations made in the heat of the moment. But my husband believed that someone who abandons their family doesn't deserve to be celebrated. He neither attended the wedding nor offered any support. Dad, just let it go. In the future, you'll rely on us for care, right? We are family, so try to compromise a bit. No way. Why would I bother with someone like you? Knowing that his father had money, Larry had previously mentioned the need for future care and requested support. However, my husband didn't listen to Larry's words. And as he declared, he made sure it was written in his will. It clearly stated that everything should go to his wife and grandchild. My husband, with his strict personality, had meticulously written and prepared the will to ensure that not even a small amount of money would go to Larry and his wife. This fact became known when my husband's lawyer showed the will during the funeral proceedings. He said he had received the will from my husband in advance. Remembering the anger at that time brings up emotions, but I deeply thanked my husband for his foresight and protection. My husband left a will stating that even though Larry is his son, he does not have the right to inherit his father's estate. When the lawyer read the contents of the will, Larry and Julie were shocked. I decided to add insult to injury. Oh, by the way, Julie, you took things from our house, right? You said it was like an advance on the inheritance, but you heard the will the lawyer read, right? You have no rights, so give it back. It was a gift from my husband to me. I pointed to the necklace she was wearing. She threw the necklace at me with a visibly angry attitude, clicking her tongue and glaring at me. Probably because the lawyer was present, she couldn't say anything reckless. I didn't hear about this. I thought I'd finally get my father-in-law's inheritance. I came all the way here today. What's going on? Really? When you announced your marriage, you said being pursued meant you were more attractive, so it was inevitable, right? You knew what you were getting into when you got with him, while he already had a family. I remembered how furious I was at her attitude back then. I used to think Larry was deceived by such a terrible woman, but now I realize they are a perfectly matched couple. I will definitely inherit. Oh, there is the hospital. It would be troublesome if the director was absent, right? This kind of succession is usually done by the son. Too bad it's already been handed over to a competent subordinate. Huh, why isn't it normal for the son to take over? Haha, to begin with, you're doing something that's not normal, right? It's your own doing. Realize that you're not the norm. She was desperate for the inheritance, whether it be the hospital or the house. In the end, she clung to the lawyer, asking, "Then what can I get?" But the lawyer my husband had contracted wouldn't easily tell her. He repeatedly explained the contents of the will, stating, "The two of you have no inheritance rights," and responded calmly, "This is unbelievable. I don't believe it. It must be a mistake." Really, no matter how much you fuss, nothing will change. Even if you sue, you'll just end up embarrassed. If you're okay with that, feel free to do so. Perhaps finding my cold treatment unbearable, she stormed out of the house with a face as red as a boiled octopus. I watched her leave with Larry. I held the necklace and quietly pumped my fist in triumph. After that, she never contacted me or visited the house again, and the inheritance procedures were completed smoothly. I was worried they would confront Larry's ex-wife, who has a grandchild, but Larry, who doesn't even pay child support, wouldn't know her contact details, so there were no issues. Larry and Julie, who didn't get any inheritance, seemed to be having a big quarrel. Julie told Larry, "I married you thinking I would get a big inheritance from your father, and they are apparently on the brink of divorce." The saying, "end of money, end of love," fits them perfectly. I only received one contact from Larry saying, "Give me the money or house you inherited," but I naturally ignored it. I exclaimed, "Don't talk nonsense while you're awake," and hung up the phone. I sighed, wondering where I went wrong raising my son, but there was also good news. A letter arrived from Larry's ex-wife, stating that the inheritance procedures were completed. In it, along with an update, there was a photo of my cute grandchild and words of gratitude. "Thank you for being such wonderful grandparents," it said. "They are living very happily now." The grandchild my husband had been concerned about until the end is growing up healthy and living happily with her new father. There was also a lovely family photo in the letter, and although I felt guilty as a parent, my mood was brightened and my heart warmed. I was very happy and immediately read the letter in front of my husband's altar to report to him. I was continuously disappointed by Larry's actions and words. However, I was able to report to my husband about the grandchild, which always brought a smile to his face, and I was happy and satisfied.
"You're just a gold digger," Amanda sneered, standing in my kitchen with her designer purse clutched to her chest like a shield. "Everyone knows you trapped my brother with your innocent act. Now do us all a favor and leave." I continued washing the dishes, letting the warm water run over my hands as I tried to maintain my composure. After 5 years of marriage to James, you'd think his sister would have found a new target for her venom. But no, Amanda had made it her life's mission to prove I married her brother for his family's money. My name is Sofia Martinez, and at 32, I found myself defending my marriage yet again. Not against outside threats, but against the poison that seeped from within the family itself. James was away on a work trip, which meant Amanda felt emboldened to make her weekly visit to remind me how unworthy I was of the Anderson family name. "Are you even listening?" she demanded, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "James is filing for divorce. He knows all about your little scheme now." That made me pause. I turned off the faucet and dried my hands slowly, deliberately. "What scheme would that be, Amanda?" She smiled, the kind of smile that reminded me of a predator about to pounce. "The way you pretended to work at that coffee shop, making yourself look poor and helpless. How you orchestrated meeting James there, knowing he always stopped for his morning coffee. You played him perfectly, didn't you?" I couldn't help but laugh, which only seemed to infuriate her more. "I worked at that coffee shop to put myself through nursing school. Unlike some people, I'm not afraid of honest work." "Please," she scoffed, pulling out her phone. "I have proof now. Someone sent me interesting information about your past. Seems like you've tried this routine before, haven't you? Getting close to wealthy men, trying to sink your claws in." My heart skipped a beat, but not for the reasons Amanda assumed. I knew exactly who would have contacted her, and why. "Let me guess," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Someone named Marcus reached out to you." The slight widening of her eyes told me I was right. "So you admit it. You know him." "Oh, I know Marcus," I replied, walking toward the stairs. "Would you like to see something interesting, Amanda? Since you're so concerned about the family's welfare." She followed me up to the attic, her heels clicking against the wooden steps like angry exclamation points. The late afternoon sun filtered through the dusty window, casting long shadows across the cluttered space. I moved purposefully toward an old trunk in the corner, one I hadn't opened since the day I married James. "What are you doing?" Amanda demanded, watching as I pulled out a key I kept on a chain around my neck. "Showing you the truth," I said simply, unlocking the trunk. "Since you're so interested in my past with Marcus." The hinges creaked as I lifted the lid, revealing stacks of yellowed newspapers, old photographs, and legal documents. On top lay a front-page article from 15 years ago. Its headlines still bold despite the passage of time. "Tech mogul's son arrested in investment scandal." Amanda snatched the paper, her eyes scanning the text rapidly. I knew what she was reading. The story of how Marcus Reynolds, son of a wealthy tech executive, had been caught running an elaborate investment scam targeting young women. The article mentioned his arrest, but more importantly, it mentioned the key witness who had helped bring him down. A 19-year-old barista named Sofia Martinez. This can't be right," Amanda stammered, looking between me and the article. Marcus said you were his accomplice, that you helped him scam people. I pulled out more documents, police reports, court transcripts, and a letter of commendation from the FBI. I worked undercover with the FBI for 6 months to gather evidence against him. Marcus lost everything: his money, his freedom, his family's reputation. He spent 8 years in prison, and now he's trying to get revenge by poisoning my new life. Amanda sank onto an old chair, the paper trembling in her hands. But you were just a coffee shop worker. How did you? I was a criminal justice student working part-time, I corrected her. When I noticed Marcus's pattern with other young women who came into the shop, I contacted the authorities. They asked for my help building a case against him. I pulled out one final document, a certified letter from the FBI stating that the majority of Marcus's seized assets had been returned to his victims, thanks to my testimony. I could have taken the reward money they offered, could have sold my story to the press. But I didn't, because it was never about the money, Amanda. It was about doing what was right. The silence in the attic was heavy with the weight of shattered assumptions. Amanda stared at the evidence of my past, her carefully constructed narrative about me crumbling before her eyes. Does James know about all this? She finally asked, her voice small. No, I said quietly, because unlike some people, I don't think the past defines who we are. I married James because I love him, not because of his family's money or status. I've never needed either. I began placing the documents back in the trunk, each one a reminder of a chapter in my life I'd chosen to keep private, not out of shame, but because I'd wanted to build a new life based on who I was now, not who I'd been forced to become at 19. I think you should leave now, Amanda, I said, closing the trunk. And the next time Marcus or anyone else tries to feed you stories about me, remember what you saw today. Remember that appearances can be deceiving, just not in the way you always assumed. She stood up shakily, clutching her designer purse like a lifeline. As she headed toward the attic stairs, she paused. Why didn't you ever tell us? It would have changed everything. I smiled sadly. Would it? Or would you have just found another reason to doubt me? Some people only see what they want to see, Amanda. I learned that lesson a long time ago. As I watched her leave, I knew this wasn't over. The truth about my past was out now, and soon James would know everything. But for the first time in 5 years, I felt strangely peaceful. Sometimes the best defense isn't in hiding who you are, but in finally letting the truth come to light. I pulled out my phone and texted James a simple message. We need to talk when you get home. There's something I should have told you a long time ago. The house felt eerily quiet after Amanda left. I sat in the living room, surrounded by photo albums I'd pulled from the shelves. Pictures of James and me on our honeymoon, holiday gatherings with his family, moments of happiness I'd captured and preserved, hoping they'd somehow prove my worth to the Andersons. My phone buzzed with James' reply. Is everything okay? I can catch an earlier flight. Before I could respond, another message popped up, this one from an unknown number. My heart sank as I read it. Did you really think you could keep your past hidden forever, Sophia? I told you I'd make you pay for what you did to me. Marcus. I blocked the number immediately, but the damage was done. Marcus was clearly determined to destroy the life I'd built. The irony wasn't lost on me. He was still trying to control and manipulate, just like he had 15 years ago. The doorbell rang, making me jump. Through the peephole, I saw Margaret, my mother-in-law, standing there with Amanda. Of course, Amanda had gone straight to her mother with her discovery. I opened the door, steeling myself for what was coming. Margaret swept past me into the house, her expensive perfume trailing behind her like a warning sign. Amanda told me everything, she announced, turning to face me with the same cold expression I'd seen countless times at family dinners. About your involvement with that criminal, Marcus Reynolds. Did she tell you the whole story? I asked quietly. Or just the version Marcus wants you to believe? She showed me the newspaper articles, Margaret said, her voice sharp. My son married someone who was involved in a criminal investigation. Do you have any idea what this could do to our family's reputation? I walked to the attic stairs. Follow me. Both of you need to see something. This time, I pulled everything out of the trunk, not just the newspaper articles, but the commendation letters, the victim statements, the photos of young women who'd lost their savings to Marcus's scheme. I spread them across the attic floor, creating a timeline of truth that couldn't be denied. I was 19. I began, my voice steady. working at the coffee shop, studying criminal justice. Marcus would come in, always targeting young women who seemed vulnerable. He charmed them, convinced them to invest their savings in his exclusive investment program. By the time I noticed the pattern, he'd already stolen from dozens of victims. Margaret picked up one of the victim statements, her eyes widening as she read the details of Marcus's manipulation tactics. The FBI asked for my help, I continued. I agreed to wear a wire to let Marcus think I was another potential victim. For 6 months, I gathered evidence while watching him destroy more lives. When they finally arrested him, he looked me in the eye and swore he'd make me pay someday. But why didn't you tell us? Amanda asked, her earlier hostility replaced by something that almost looked like respect. Because I wanted a chance at a normal life, I replied. When I met James, it was 2 years after the trial. He was kind, genuine, everything Marcus had pretended to be. I fell in love with him because he saw me for who I was, not what I could offer him. Margaret sat down heavily on an old chair. All this time we thought. You thought I was a gold digger, I finished for her. Because it was easier to believe I had ulterior motives than to accept that maybe, just maybe, your son could love someone from a different background. Sophia? A voice called from downstairs, James's voice. My heart stopped. He wasn't supposed to be home yet. Heavy footsteps on the attic stairs, and then he was there, taking in the scene before him. His wife, mother, and sister surrounded by evidence of a past I'd kept hidden. I caught an earlier flight, he said, his eyes fixed on the newspaper article in his mother's hands. Amanda called me, told me there was something I needed to know about you. I stood up, my legs shaking slightly. I should have told you long ago, James. I'm sorry. He walked over, picking up the FBI commendation letter. His eyes scanned it quickly, then moved to the victim statements, the court documents, the photos. No one spoke as he pieced together the story of who I had been before I became his wife. Finally, he looked at me, and I saw something in his eyes I hadn't expected. Pride. You helped put him away, he said softly. You risked your life to protect other women. Yes, I whispered. He turned to his mother and sister. All these years you've judged her, questioned her motives, made her feel like she wasn't good enough. And all this time she was more honorable than any of us. James, Margaret started, but he cut her off. No, Mom, you and Amanda owe Sophia an apology. Not just for today, but for every snide comment, every subtle dig, every moment you made her feel unwelcome in this family. I touched his arm gently. James, they didn't know. That's the point, he said firmly. They never tried to know you. They were so convinced they knew your type that they never bothered to learn who you really are. The attic fell silent again, but this time it felt different. The truth lay scattered around us in black and white, undeniable and transformative. Margaret stood up slowly, smoothing her skirt with trembling hands. I think we owe you more than an apology, she said quietly. We owe you the chance to be truly part of this family. Amanda nodded, tears in her eyes. I'm so sorry, Sophia, for everything. I looked at them. These women who had made me doubt myself for 5 years and felt something shift inside me. The past I tried so hard to hide had finally come to light. And instead of destroying my marriage, it had somehow made it stronger. James pulled me close, kissing the top of my head. No more secrets, he murmured. No more secrets, I agreed, feeling truly secure in his love for the first time since our wedding day. As Margaret and Amanda left, promising to help deal with any fallout from Marcus's attempts at revenge, I realized that sometimes the very things we try to hide become our greatest strengths when brought into the light. 2 weeks after the revelation in the attic, life had shifted in ways I never expected. The Anderson family dynamics had transformed. Margaret now called regularly, not to criticize but to genuinely check on me. Amanda had become an unexpected ally, using her legal connections to help protect me from Marcus's continued attempts at revenge. But Marcus wasn't finished. One morning, I arrived at the hospital where I worked as a nurse to find him waiting in the parking lot. He looked older than I remembered, prison time evident in the hardness of his face. Hello, Sophia, he said, pushing off his expensive car, still playing the noble hero. I stood my ground, my hand already on my phone. You need to leave, Marcus, now. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I lost everything because of you. My family's reputation, my future, all of it gone because you couldn't mind your own business. You lost everything because you stole from innocent women. I corrected him. I just made sure you faced the consequences. He took a step closer, and now you've built this perfect little life for yourself. The devoted nurse, the loving wife, the respected member of society. It would be a shame if something happened to ruin all that. Step away from my wife. James's voice cut through the tension. He emerged from his car, walking purposefully toward us. Behind him, I saw Amanda's car pull up and two police officers I recognized from her law firm. Marcus's smug expression faltered. This is a private conversation. Nothing about this is private, Amanda said, joining us with the officers. We've documented every attempt you've made to harass Sophia. Every call, every message, every threat. One of the officers stepped forward. Mr. Reynolds, you're in violation of your parole by being here. You were explicitly forbidden from contacting Ms. Martinez or her family. I watched as they arrested him, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders that I hadn't even realized I was carrying. James wrapped his arm around me, solid and supportive. How did you know? I asked him. One of your coworkers saw him lurking earlier and called me, he explained. I reached out to Amanda immediately. Later that evening, the entire Anderson family gathered at our house. Margaret had insisted on a family dinner, saying we needed to do things properly from now on. As we sat around the dining table, I looked at these people who had once been my harshest critics. Margaret was sharing stories from James's childhood, actually including me in the conversation. Amanda was discussing how we could use my experience to help other women avoid similar scams. I've been thinking, Margaret said, setting down her wine glass. The family's charitable foundation could use someone with your insight, Sophia. Would you consider joining the board? I nearly choked on my drink. The Anderson Family Foundation was Margaret's pride and joy, her way of maintaining the family's social standing. She had never even hinted at including me before. Are you sure? I asked carefully. Of course she's sure, Amanda interjected. Your experience with Marcus, your nursing background, you understand better than any of us how to actually help people. James squeezed my hand under the table. What do you think, love? I looked around at their expectant faces and felt tears well up in my eyes. I'd be honored, I said softly. Margaret reached across the table and took my other hand. No, Sophia. We're the ones who are honored. You've shown us what true strength and integrity look like. We were so busy judging you that we couldn't see the amazing woman my son was lucky enough to marry. That night, after everyone had left, James and I sat on our back porch looking at the stars. The same stars I used to look at 15 years ago, wondering if I was brave enough to stand up to Marcus. You know what's funny? I said, leaning against James's shoulder. I spent so long trying to prove I was good enough for your family. But in the end, it was my past. The very thing I was trying to hide that finally made them see me. James kissed my forehead. They see you now. That's what matters. Better late than never, I teased. Much better, he agreed. Though I always saw you from that very first coffee you served me. I smiled, remembering that day. You were the only customer who ever asked my name. Best question I ever asked, he said softly. As we sat there in comfortable silence, I thought about how life has a way of bringing things full circle. The past I tried to escape had become the bridge to my future. Marcus's attempt at revenge had only served to strengthen my bonds with the family I married into. Sometimes the very things we think will break us become the foundation of our strength. I learned that at 19, standing up to Marcus. I learned it again at 32, finally letting my truth come to light. The next morning, I would start my new role with the family foundation. But for now, I was content to sit under the stars with my husband, finally free from the weight of secrets and the need to prove myself. After all, the best revenge isn't in getting even. It's in living well, surrounded by people who love you for exactly who you are.